I did my basic training and my schooling at Fort Dix, New Jersey. And then my first duty station was Fort Hood, Texas, where I drove for a colonel.
Well, I've been in the Army for 4 years this December. I spent a year and a half in the National Guard, and I've spent the last 2.5 years here at the Academy, and I'll graduate here in May of 2027 as a second lieutenant.
I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps, and I was also a master sergeant in the Air National Guard.
I served for 10 years in the Navy, primarily stationed out of Virginia and upstate New York.
I was in the United States Army for 22 years, and I was a master sergeant when I retired.
I was a combat engineer and I built bridges.
World War II, mortar man.
Just in my own service, I traveled to Korea, Panama.
Yeah, all over the world. I was in Okinawa, all over the U.S., like almost every state in the U.S.
I was stationed in Colorado for my first duty station, then went to Germany for 3 years, then from Germany to Kansas, then from Kansas to Korea for 18 months, and then got out of regular Army.
The Philippines and Japan, and we went by a lot of other ones in the ship.
I've been to Iceland, been to Portugal, Spain, Italy, Sicily, Qatar.
Colorado, California. I've been to Peru, Costa Rica.
And in the reserves, I was deployed to Iraq in '03.
Puerto Rico, Cayman Islands, Colombia, Peru. So got to go up to Alaska and Hawaii outside the continental 48. So
Honduras, Belize.
My last year, I went to South Korea, and it was a different experience. Not what we have here in the United States. It smelled different. The people were different, but it was a good memory.
I think my proudest moment is when I qualified as a flight engineer on KC-130s when I was in the Marines. KC-130 is it's an aircraft that they do aero refueling, cargo, aero delivery. It's a multi-mission aircraft that they use, and the flight engineer position was a difficult one to get and complete training for. Only 30% of people that ever start to become an engineer ever finish in the Marines.
My proudest moment in the military was when I was selected as the 2nd Infantry Soldier of the Year.
Being that I worked in the nuclear power section, when I went to my first reenlistment on board the ship, we were required to reenlist on board the ship. So a buddy of mine decided to reenlist at the same time, and we actually decided to reenlist in the reactor compartment on board the aircraft carrier. So before the reactor core was installed, so we were actually able to reenlist in what is now the middle of the reactor core in number 2 plant on the USS George H.W. Bush. So because of that, because we hadn't had the cores installed yet, now that the cores have been installed and taken critical, now no one else will ever be allowed to do that again.
My proudest accomplishment so far in the Army is going to be my completion of Air Assault, which is considered the 10 toughest days of the Army. In essence, it was just a lot of exercise, a lot of educational experiences, learning how to rappel out of helicopters and how to set up, they're called sling loads. That was a really interesting school. It was a really tough school, and it kind of built me up for succeeding here at the Academy.
The proudest moment, I think one of them was when we built, I was in charge of building a full closure bridge across the Euphrates River.
One time I was in General Douglas MacArthur's building. That was a high moment.
For the students interested in joining the military, it is challenging. It is worth everything that you put into it, and it'll leave you with some of the best stories for the rest of your life.
I think the biggest thing for people is just to remember the veterans that have all put in their service for the nation.
I think people should celebrate Veterans Day just by taking that moment to stop and think about the sacrifices that all veterans make. So you don't have to be a combat vet to have made a lot of sacrifices in your life. And I think in that aspect that, you know, everyone who serves had to sacrifice a lot, had to give up a lot of their, you know, their youth, their time, their energy. People get injured, and just take that moment to stop and think about all the sacrifices that people made so that we could have our way of life.
Veterans Day, I just tell about what has happened, and that our freedom is not free. That we have to pay a terrible expense for freedom.